I'm going to be reading from Exodus 32 today. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So the next day the people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterward they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and have said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.' I have seen these people," the Lord said to Moses, "and they are stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger may burn against them and that I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation." But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. "Lord," he said, "why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, 'It was with evil intent that he brought them out, to kill them in the mountains and to wipe them off the face of the earth'? Turn from your fierce anger, relent, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore by your own self. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give your descendants all this land I promised them, and it will be their inheritance forever." Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster he had threatened. Moses turned and went down the mountain with the 2 tables of the covenant law in his hands. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. The tablets were the work of God. The writing was the writing of God, engraved on the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people shouting, he said to Moses, "There is the sound of war in the camp." Moses replied, "It is not the sound of victory. It is not the sound of defeat. It is the sound of singing that I hear." When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf the people had made and burned it in the fire. Then he ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. He said to Aaron, "What did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?" "Do not be angry, my lord," Aaron answered. "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him." So I told them, "Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off." Then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Moses saw that the people were running wild, and that Aaron had let them get out of control, and so became a laughingstock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Each man strap a sword to his side. Go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other, each killing his brother and friend and neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day about 3,000 of the people died. Then Moses said, "You have been set apart to the Lord today, for you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day." The next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses went back to the Lord and said, Oh, what a great sin these people have committed! They have made themselves gods of gold. But now, please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written." The Lord replied to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin." And the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did with the calf Aaron had made.
Thank you ever so much for reading that chapter. Exodus 32 is a big chapter, and on its own it could easily have 40 teaching sessions. So in this section we have Moses being given the law. Now you'd have thought this was the holiest part of the Bible. This is really significant, being given the law. What on earth could mess it up? And the answer was the children of Israel. The children of Israel were down the bottom of the mountain, and it says they grew weary of Moses not being there, and they put the pressure on Aaron, and Aaron builds a golden calf. And I just picture this for a moment. God is doing great stuff, and then people, and then God talks about them being corrupt, or if you like, doing the absolute opposite. And here's a message for us, that God is so good that he will continue to do his stuff. However, we find if we go through this, there is a repercussion. And it's very interesting that it's God that tells Moses, listen, see what the people are doing. And Moses, when he's in front of God, he intercedes for the people. He actually, before the Lord, he says, do not punish them. We find this, but in 11, Moses sought favour of the God. And why should your anger burn against your people? And he talks about the fact that otherwise people are going to use his name in vain. But we also find that when Moses gets to the people, he's angry. And there's stuff that goes on in our lives, there's stuff that goes on in the church that actually we need leaders to be angry about. We need leaders that before God, and yet often we just don't want those sort of leaders. And we see the pattern going through the Old Testament where people don't want leaders that God wants. And there comes this bit, we'll see this later, where he actually says, God says to Samuel, they haven't rejected you, they've rejected me. And so this is a theme in the Old Testament. We see the corruption. And those that have done physics know there's a law of thermodynamics. I think it's the second law that everything tends towards chaos. The most chaos. And if you like, in the Bible we see the spiritual law that if we are left on our own, if we do not seek to be followers of Jesus, there is a natural tendency to go the other way. And we see this. And in this chapter 9 is the law being given, but they build a golden calf. And why do they build a golden calf? It's because they want to be like the people of Egypt. And if you like, because they don't see God doing stuff, they want to go back to Egypt. They want to go back to the world. And that can be, again, a pattern that can happen to us if we don't develop a patience that God and a faith that God will, in his time, sort this stuff out. If you like, it's not a neutral. And so what do they do? Like all the gold, and this is the gold they were given by the people when they left Egypt. They build the calf with that, and then you read that actually what happens is the calf, it gets ground down and it gets thrown away. So that gold is never with them anymore. The gold that they could have had to do all sorts of stuff when they got the promised land, they lost because of that disobedience. And this is where, although God is faithful in our lives and he will continue to have his way in our lives, and he continues to be merciful for us, but there is repercussions. And so, brothers and sisters, it really is a situation, do not grow impatient with God. And do not put pressure on your church leaders to be like the world. Poor old Aaron, you feel Joshua and Moses had gone up the mountain and he was left alone with all these people. And that's what happened. And so let's make sure that we're patient, and let's not set up the same idols that the world does in our lives of money, sex, power, in order that God will remain our God. Thank you so much for coming, being with us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.